Hello, everyone on the playback. I'm going to give everyone a moment to join. I'm excited for this month. I have my friends Michelle and Riley here with me as co-hosts, and I am really looking forward to discussing this book with you all. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, I feel like most people on my channel know who you all are, but just a short little introduction, what you do on YouTube, all that stuff would be wonderful. So Michelle, you want to start?
Yeah, my name is Michelle from Michelle's Library. I do a lot of reading vlogs on my channel. I read romance, thrillers, and horror. That's it.
Love it.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Riley. My channel is Riley Marie. I read like everything, horror, fantasy, romance, although I have not been in my romance era lately, so romance isn't doing it for me right now. But
that's so funny because I am in my romance era. And I was. We switched.
Yeah, I do a lot of reading vlogs, the typical stuff.
Yeah, they're awesome creators. Links are in the description, so make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. Let me know if you guys read it, if you're just hanging out to watch. We always do non-spoiler sections first, so I'm going to first of all just put up a banner here. And I'm going to kind of share what this book is about. So this is a vampire novel, but it's kind of like a new take on a vampire novel, in my opinion. Basically, the main character, she's grown up since she was 10, being kind of her mom's like bloodletter, because her mom was infected with this virus that gave her like vampire, I guess, like made her a vampire. I don't know. It's kind of like a pandemic in this book. And so she's had to take care of her mother from a really young age and stay really isolated from everyone. And so you're also following her in the present, and she meets this person named Jade, and she kind of thinks that maybe Jade's her way out of this situation with her mom and like escaping all of that. So that's kind of like what it's about. And it's a horror novel. And I was trying to figure out if it was the debut by the author, but I think they wrote a duology, I want to say, of like YA books before this. So I think it's their adult debut.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it looked like the other books were vampire books as well. So this author must like really love vampire books. So yeah, that's kind of what it's about. Do you guys think I need to add anything in that description?
I think that was good.
Yeah. Also, my Streamyard's doing that thing where it's not showing me comments.
Oh.
Because I was like, no comments are coming up. Are they showing for you all?
No.
Yeah, and I was like, I feel like people are here. And I looked, and of course, Streamyard is not cooperating because this apparently is Streamyard's MO lately. So I'm just going to read from my phone. Please, everyone, like, still comment, and I can just see it's here. So Deb says, hello. Hi, Deb. Stephanie says, I read this earlier this month. And also Deb says, I did read it. Nice. I think I'm not going to like go out of the studio and refresh because that doesn't even work. I think
it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. It just like updates eventually. So hopefully comments will start coming up better, and hopefully YouTube will be actually showing me all the comments that people are leaving. So I'm sorry about that. Streamyard. Yeah. Deb said Streamyard is being moody this week. Yeah. It's been like for a few weeks. I feel like it's just been having issues. So sorry about that. Let me know in the comments if you read it physically, if you read it by audio. How did you all read this book?
I did both audio and physical, as I normally do.
Nice.
Yeah.
I did just audio.
Yeah, me too. I thought about buying it, but then I just decided I'm trying really hard not to buy books. It's so hard, you guys. It's so hard. But I moved, and like my bookshelf here, it's completely full. And so I don't really have like any other place yet. So it's making me kind of stop a little bit, but I'm probably going to have to unhaul some stuff and maybe just get another bookshelf set up. Let's see. I hope the comments are going to come through. I'm a little nervous because nothing's loading and I know people are watching. Sorry, guys. It sucks that StreamYard is doing this. I don't really know the answer to it. So I'll just keep kind of looking down at my phone and seeing. Deb said, I did audio primarily, but did pick it up from the library and looked at a couple pages here and there. Yeah. What did you all think about the audiobook? Did you guys like it and the narrator?
I did not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that they were very monotoned, which did nothing for me. And also, I wish there was like another narrator or at least another voice for when we went in the past, because she was literally 10 years old.
She was 10 years old and was like, yeah, and like this happened and my mom was a vampire.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I almost thought about like stopping the audiobook and just reading it physically. But like I'm such an audiobook snob, so like don't listen to me. I don't know.
I didn't have problems with
that. I really understand.
I listen to everything on audio, so unless there's like a really big like issue, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I actually know exactly what you're saying, Michelle, because I was kind of annoyed. I got that the character has kind of like a sarcastic, like matter of fact voice, but it was like everything.
Yeah, it was, in my opinion, like way too monotoned. Like she had no expression at all, especially when like things were happening at the end of the book. It was just still like so flat, and I was like, oh my god.
No, I agree. Stephanie says, I got it physically from the library, but then I ended up buying it as well because I loved it. I'm so glad. Also, Deb said, I'm on my phone, so I type slow. It's totally fine. You're totally fine. You're great, Deb. Also, she says it's so hard to read it on here. More distinction in the narration between periods would have been nice, but it was okay. Yeah, I felt like you're right. It kind of just like ran on really fast. And also I was listening really fast, but still the speed of the voice, I felt like was way faster than a lot of audiobooks, right? Am I wrong?
I am, life, I have kids and stuff. So I stopped in the middle of a chapter and then I picked it back up, like I think the next day, and I couldn't remember what time period I was in because it was just the same voice and the same things and everything kind of felt the same, even though it was like different time periods. And I was just like, I have no idea where. So in the middle of this chapter, I was like, I don't know where I am. I just had to wait until the next chapter.
Yeah. Did you guys feel like it was hard to tell what era you were in sometimes? Because I felt like it was sort of, like you said, a little challenging sometimes. I feel like if I had the book physically, I would have been better. But it was like I was just listening to the audio. So
I read it in one sitting. So
okay.
I was with it the whole time. I never had to like figure out what time period I was in.
That's good. Good. This is a good segue kind of to one of my questions, which is what did you all think about the writing style? What did you think about the pacing? I know this is still non-spoiler, so we can't really get like so much into it. But Riley, you said you read it in one sitting. Were you engaged the whole time, or did you just like read it? Was that just what happened?
I think I was engaged the whole time. I feel like, I noticed the chapters were like really long chapters.
Yeah.
They were all like 45 minutes to an hour in the audiobook.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel as long as it did to me.
Okay. Yeah. Do you know how many pages it was? Do you remember like around?
I think it was like 245.
Okay.
It was pretty short.
Yeah. So I felt like the pacing for me was, and I don't know if it's because it was first person POV. This is another one of my questions. Sometimes first person POV, the pacing feels kind of slow because you're just in one person's head. And so for me, I think that was slowing it down a little bit because it felt more like a sort of relationship book and less of like a plot driven horror or thriller book, which is like good if that's what you're looking for. And I did like some of those elements. I feel like there's so much to discuss with this book, but I felt like it was really slow until like the very end.
That's exactly how I felt. Yeah, I said that. I vlogged it from a mood reading vlog and I was just like, I feel like nothing was happening until the last 40 pages. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Weird because I feel like the opposite. Really? I was like so into it. I was like, ooh, every chapter I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next?
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That is hilarious. Also, let me look at the comments and see what everyone thought.
But I'm also much more of like a character like relationship type of reader
Yeah.
than like a plot reader. So
And I'm the opposite. So
Yeah. I am the opposite. I will say there was one character in this who, again, don't worry, we'll switch to spoilers. This one is kind of hard without doing spoilers because it's so
yeah.
you're driven. But there was one character named Jade who I wanted like more from.
Mhm.
I felt like I didn't know them very well. And I don't know, that was an area where I wanted more like
Me too.
character development. But overall, throughout this book, it was like there was some really interesting ideas and concepts. And I was like, that could be so action packed. But for me personally, like the action wasn't really happening until like the end.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, Deb says more distinction in the narration between periods would have been nice. Yeah, but it was okay for me. Nice. Also, Stephanie says, I read this pretty quickly as well. I was very engaged and didn't want to put it down. I'm really glad that it worked so well and that you ended up buying it physically because you loved it. That's awesome. Deb said, I did zone out here and there and then had to figure out where I was.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I was better focused, or when I was better focused, I was fine tracking it. And Stephanie says, I'm also more character driven. So that's probably why I got so into it. And then Deb said, I found the relationships very interesting and well done overall, especially the mother-daughter family dynamic, but something about the plot didn't fully engage me. Yeah, we're going to totally talk about that because that's a huge part of this book, definitely, like the mother-daughter dynamic. Do you guys want to share your ratings? I'm curious.
So when I finished it, I gave it 3.5, but it's been like 2 weeks, I think, since I finished it. I'm actually going to bump it up to 4.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I keep thinking about it and I'm like, yeah, okay. It was
What about
good.
you?
I am giving it 4.5.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's great. I get very excited when people read a book club of mine and like rate it high because I feel like a lot of times people are like, it was a 2, which is like totally fine. And I'm like, I'm so sorry I made you read this. I'm having trouble knowing how to rate it because I loved the end.
Mhm.
Like, I thought it was so good. And there were so many elements in this story that I think set up a next book really, really well.
Yeah.
Like, there is a sequel coming out in 2024. And I feel like with this setup, that one is probably going to be better in my
I think
opinion.
so.
Like, this almost felt like a prequel in a weird kind of way.
Mhm.
I don't know. It felt like a very much like setting up and then like the main thing happens at the end for me that I'm like, oh shit, like I want to know what happens now.
I agree.
And things are set up throughout that I feel like could be really cool in the next book. So let me know. Let's see. Deb said I gave it 3.5, rounded to 4. Stephanie said I gave it 5. It's one of my favorite books of the year. That's awesome. I'm glad you picked it, as I'm not sure if I would have picked it up. Yeah, I'm really glad that I read this one. I feel the same as you, Michelle. Like when I first finished it, I was like maybe 3 stars. Now I'm really conflicted, like maybe 3.5 to 4. I'm not sure because there are a lot of elements I really did like. I think sometimes with books, like when I'm reading it, the entertainment factor maybe isn't there as much. But when I think about what it's doing and reflect upon it, then I'm like, oh, I appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Whereas generally that doesn't happen, but this is one of those books as I reflect upon it, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. That was clever. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll say a 3.5 for now and we'll see how I feel. Trying to think if there's anything else that we can talk about that's non-spoilery. I think we can. It's pretty early on addressed that this is more of like a pandemic take on vampire story. What did you guys think about that? And did you think it was directly kind of influenced by COVID? What do you think?
I liked later on, they go to get into places you have to like scan. And I feel like that is reminiscent of like a COVID test, like testing your blood and stuff. So I definitely feel like Liz Kerin was like, let's write a fucking vampire novel that's also pandemic based.
Yeah.
And I think it worked really well because I feel like for me personally, I'm like far removed from COVID and like that, where I can appreciate that this is the direction she wanted to go. And I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it was, like, you could tell it was kind of inspired by COVID, but it wasn't so heavy-handed. Like, I read some other books that were, like, COVID-inspired, pandemic-y, and it was just like, ugh, I don't want to read this.
I think the vampires, instead of, like, a sickness, was really, really smart.
Yeah.
Like, that made it cool for me.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like sometimes in books where it's, like, just dropping COVID like as just a random, it's not even like a plot, but it's just like added in, it's kind of like, oh, that sucks, because like I remember it, I hated it. Like, I don't want to think about that. I'm like reading this for escapism, but this was like enough where it was like, oh, I get that, but also it was like a unique, it was more like we didn't have vampires.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense. It's not like triggering in the same way.
Yeah.
Like, it was different enough that it didn't feel like a COVID book, you know?
Yeah, it didn't feel like a COVID book, but like I do feel like she was like, let's make this kind of like a COVID book. Yeah.
And I feel like it was probably written during COVID.
Yeah.
You know, like during maybe lockdown or something.
Yeah, I feel like if it came out in 2023, then she probably wrote it at the end of 2020. So
probably.
Yeah.
Well, in 2020, at my job, I was the person taking people's temperatures at the door before they could come in. So I'm like, oh, that is like the
You're like, I am the scanner. Hello. Stephanie says, I'm really glad a sequel is out next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Deb says, agreed, it's very clever take on a vampire. Yeah, I agree. I really like that. And I actually haven't read many vampire books. And I think it was the fact that like in this book, this isn't a spoiler, but it's, you know, normal vampire books, it's like they have the fangs, they like have long scenes of like, well, maybe not long scenes, but it's like a focus scene of like drinking blood. And since it's like a first person POV, like this is a blood letter, and she's like using a I don't know, whatever she's doing, like a needle and an IV kind of thing. Like it's different than other vampire books in that way. And I just thought it was interesting. Do you think if somebody is more squeamish that this book would be better for them if they kind of want that vampire vibe, but like they can't handle? Because I've heard a lot of people say like blood is like vampire-y stuff is hard. What do you guys think?
That first scene, like the first scene, without getting spoilery, when her mom is like turned, is super bloody. So like, I don't know.
And so there was this one line that I like distinctly remembered that was like the blue couch that is now purple.
Yes. Yes. Like it's still bro.
Yeah, I agree. It's still definitely bloody. I think maybe for me, it was like felt less like, I don't know. I guess I've just read a few other vampire books that felt more like, I don't know how to talk, like sucking the blood.
Yeah.
And very, very much like they're licking it up. And like this didn't have that as much. So maybe in that way, it's less like gross for people.
Yeah.
Deb says, I'm COVID reports girl at work, and we had 2 outbreaks this week. Oh no.
Oh God.
So I'm glad this wasn't too COVID-y. Yeah, I actually heard that a lot of people are getting it. I wonder if it's because it's back to school, like everyone's together again, and like
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
That sucks. Like inside more, you know, at the end of the summer. Okay, I think I'm caught up on comments, and I think we're gonna go into spoilers now. So if you haven't read it, if you don't want to be spoiled, peace out. But if you don't care about being spoiled, hello, stay. All right. So what should we start with? Should we talk about the mother-daughter relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was definitely my favorite part and why I rated it so highly. Because I like my favorite books are ones that like explore toxic or like codependent dynamics. Yeah. So I was really into that. And I feel like it was kind of like, this is a vampire book, but it was a vampire book that was not like the focus being about vampires.
It was just like, I went into this book not knowing anything other than we were reading it. So the fact that we were like reading about such an abusive relationship, I was just like, I was not prepared for that at all. But like the dynamics of everything in that, she'd been dealing with this for 10 years and just like was letting it happen because she was the bloodletter. Like it was good, but also it was like shocking.
Yeah, it was really, really sad because I could see like as a 10-year-old, that's such a formative time. And like she had to even just like the stuff she was doing in flashbacks for her mom. Like there was this scene I think where she like I was reading it on audio, so I could have missed it, but I think she like hurt herself with like garden shears or something like outside. Do you guys remember that? Like she was trying, I felt like I remembered a scene where she like picked up a tool and like got blood so her mom wouldn't hurt anybody. Do you guys not remember that? Am I making that up?
I personally don't remember that, but I know she got hurt and she like cut herself with like a tea cup or whatever, and it started to like get infected.
Yeah.
And they like they kept talking about the infection so many times, and it was just so gross.
See, maybe I accidentally like zoned out a little bit during some of this.
It's hard to do it just audio. Like I can't do just audio.
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't know. I remembered something, so maybe it's a false memory. But yeah, there were scenes of like her hurting herself. Basically, it was gross and like hard to read. And I just really felt for her as a 10-year-old. And I really like the flashback chapters more. Like I was more interested in that. I felt like it was way more like plot driven. There's way more stuff happening because it was like right at the beginning. And just like, oh my God, like how the mom treated her. Oh, it was so horrible. It was so manipulative. It was like she would be so horrible to her. And then she would like come back with like something sweet to like.
Yes, like all that makeup, and this was in present day, but she got back with like $500 worth of Sephora makeup, and she was like, she thinks that this is going to be okay, and I'm just like, oh my God. It's so abusive. Like it was very sad. I was not expecting like a sad vampire book.
I know, and people, I think it in the description it said like a really emotional, heartfelt story. I wasn't expecting like that. I was like, what is going on? Yes, the description of the blue couch being purple really stuck with me.
Yes, same.
And then the toxic relationship was really hard to read about, but it made me so much more empathetic towards Mia. Yeah, me too. And it kind of makes sense why her personality was so like closed off, because she wouldn't let herself feel anything. And then like Jade is introduced and she's like attracted to her. And then it's like the first time that she realizes maybe she could have a different kind of life, which is so sad. Like, I think she's 23.
She's 23,
like, well into your life to realize that, oh, maybe I could leave. And then she like leaves, and then she like her mom's like calling her and she gets sucked back in. Yeah, it's really sad. I thought it was depicted so well though. I feel like a lot of people could relate to this, even though, you know, it's about the mom being a vampire, but it's more about the relationship.
Yeah, and then her bringing in the like abusive boyfriend or whatever he is to her.
Yeah.
The one who changed her or literally murdered her and changed her. Like insane. Like that dynamic, that mother just, God, it wasn't what I was expecting. And crazy.
Yeah. I think the guy's name was Devin, right?
Yeah.
So Devin was like on Facebook kind of making this whole big, like, what do you even call it? Like almost a cult. Yeah. I was like, what do you call it? Yeah. And then that also was kind of reminiscent, in my opinion, of like COVID, of like the Facebook groups and like the cultish nature of stuff. And that was something that was introduced that I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun to read about in the next book. You know what I mean? Because chaos is going to happen. I'm excited.
I do agree with you that I feel like this was a prequel for what like is really going to happen, because I feel like the second book is going to be way more action-packed than this one was.
Yeah.
Because if we're thinking like the last 40 pages of this book was all action, like everything went down for me at least in the last 40 pages. Like I can't even imagine what's going to happen in the second one.
Yeah. And the ending, oh my God, that scene was so tense.
Everything that happened, I was like, you know, I listened at 3 times speed and I was trying to keep up because so many things are happening one after the other. And I was like, holy crap.
I don't know how you listen at 3 times, because I was at 2 times and I was like, what is this?
Well, I also had it in front of my face. So.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's helpful. I was like, what? And I think that's like why sometimes I mishear things, but I just like have to read it faster, or else I like you said, like can't get things done in my everyday life.
Yeah, no, there would be no reading.
Yeah, no reading, zero. Riley, you said you were kind of more interested in the beginning. Did you not like the ending so much, or?
No, I loved the ending.
Okay, but you're just less. What were you saying earlier? Like you like the beginning more, or?
No, I liked all of it.
Oh, okay.
I think the reason for me why it's 4.5 and not 5 stars is I think if we had gotten a little bit of her mom's POV, it would have been 5 stars, because that would have like rounded it all out. Because I was thinking about it, like, you really do not feel sympathetic to her mom at all, but then you like remember her mom was like killed and turned into a vampire against her will. Like, she didn't want any of that. Like, yeah, she didn't handle it well and ended up becoming very toxic, but like she was also a victim. So I feel like if we'd gotten a little bit of her POV, it just would have like,
yeah,
like the ending of the book would then have felt even more like, oh my God.
Yeah, and I think that like last chapter in her point of view, oh my God.
Yeah,
it's something.
I know, and it's also alluded to, like, or not even alluded to, it's told you that she got pregnant, she was rejected by her church. I'm assuming it maybe was Mormon, because they were.
Yeah, she said it was Mormon.
Okay, yeah, and like how her mom like stuck with her, and then like I think her mom passed away, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that's how they got the car.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So they had the car because her mom passed away. So I agree with you. Like, there is more I kind of want to know from the mom's POV.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have rounded it out more. And yeah, I don't know. I just always like books with multiple POVs.
Me too.
I like it better generally. Yeah, let me check on the comments. Sorry, guys. I'm not used to like not seeing comments pop up in front of my face. I can't remember if I read this. The relationship was well done, but also hard to read how trapped she was.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. So, you know, if they have a hard relationship with their mother, it's a spectrum, obviously, of like how abusive people can be. And yeah, it's a really sad, hard book to read. Definitely. And also that's why it made it even more heartbreaking when she finds out that Jade was like possibly still with her ex-girlfriend. I was like, what the fuck? Like, because I really liked Jade and I was like rooting for them. I liked their sapphic relationship. It was cute. She was like, they're just cute together. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, by the way, I have something to tell you. I need to like break it off with my girlfriend, kind of was the vibe. Like, she didn't fully explain if they were broken up, they were on a break. Like, it was kind of hard to tell, but I was so sad.
And like, I understand, like, that's how the whole ending happens, is like Jade tells Mia, like, okay, so I kind of have a girlfriend, and Mia gets mad. And then the mom comes out. But like, imagine having to tell someone that your mom is a vampire. Like, hello. Like, in this pandemic world. And then Jade is just kind of like fine with it and is like, okay, let me help you out. Like, I would be out. I'd be gone.
You're like, I'm going to get killed. That whole last scene was wild. And then the way, I think it was 10 seconds, right? With the sun exposure.
Was it
7?
7, yeah. I thought it was shorter. I was going to say 4.
That's crazy, guys. That happened. Like,
it was so fast. Like, while I was figuring out what was happening, they were counting down. And I was like, oh my God.
It was also gross, the description.
Yeah.
I was like, ew.
There were some gross descriptions in this book.
Yeah, they were gross. Good point. The mom's POV would have been interesting. Deb said, yeah, I feel like the mom's POV would have been a nice addition.
I agree.
To it. Yeah. Ooh, that was gross. And how she had seen like a picture of someone on Facebook like years ago.
Yes, and she remembered that. I thought the whole Facebook thing, now that you're talking about it, is really, really smart, because I'm not on Facebook anymore because of COVID. Like, people were driving me crazy that I left Facebook during COVID. Yeah. So the fact that you brought it up, that it kind of like, for the pandemic, brought people together. Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. I don't look at my Facebook anymore.
Yeah, I completely.
The only reason why I've ever used it now is Marketplace.
I deleted it in 2021 because of COVID.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
Facebook is a wild place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a book for the squeamish. Yeah.
No.
I was just saying earlier, like, if people are sensitive to vampire-y, like blood drawing scenes where they're like sucking the blood out of people, there's not really that.
No,
But,
there's no like vampire stuff really, but like the very first scene where Devin murders Mia's mom and then that was like the introduction to the book, and I was just like, okay,
this is like this is what I'm in for. Oh my gosh, this was a really good book club book too. I feel like I was so nervous because I've had some books where they seem really promising. I feel like especially horror books.
I feel like this was a great book, and it wasn't really on my radar until Riley recommended it, and then I was like, I love this cover. I will be.
Yeah, no, the cover's amazing. I love the cover. Do you guys have any more thoughts on Jade? Like, did you like Jade the whole time, or were you suspicious?
Yeah, I liked the sapphic relationship. I will always like that in books, but I'm not sure if I liked Jade.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I was more just focused on like liking that it was a sapphic relationship.
Yes, I was like, I love this sapphic.
Yeah.
But I was like, Jade like wasn't my favorite character because I felt like she was so much about herself and not really about Mia. Like, she's getting Mia out of the house and stuff, but like she wasn't really comfortable doing the things that Jade was getting her to do, which I don't think was really fair.
Yeah, I liked the relationship, but I also was a little nervous that like Mia would then attach herself to Jade like she did to her mom, because codependent relationships are the only thing that she knows. So I feel like for the ending, it made sense that she didn't run away with Jade.
Yes.
It like ended the way that it did with her mom dying, because like that's the only, I feel like that's the only way that she ever really could have been free.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that it wasn't just like, you know, a relationship getting her out of it, but it was like it happened. Her mom died.
Jade accidentally killing her mom. I did not see that coming. I did not see her mom being toasted alive coming.
I thought that she may kill her mom, actually.
That's what I thought was going, like, Mia started to like lose it a little bit towards the end, and I was like, well, maybe she'll hopefully take charge of her life and kill her, but I mean, I did not see the way it happened.
Yeah. What about you, Riley? Were you surprised about the end, like how it happened, or were you kind of like?
I kind of saw it coming, not the way that it happened, but the fact that her mom, like she had to kill her mom, because I just didn't think she would ever like voluntarily leave her.
I just thought of this question, and I'm curious what you guys would think. Do you think this would be a good adaptation to film? Because personally, I feel like it'd be a really good like Netflix series or something.
I was gonna say, I could see it like super gritty, like filmed, like kind of dark. Yeah, I think it would be good. Yeah,
I feel like, because some of this may lend itself, and I don't know if this is just like a horror thing, like oftentimes horror books I feel like would translate, I don't know if it's just my brain, but they sometimes translate to film better to me than in book form. And I feel like this would be so good, because like, again, I keep saying this, but like the first person POV sometimes takes me out of like the suspense that happens, whereas if we were seeing it on film, we could like step back from the main character and see what was happening to them a little bit more, if that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like it'd be a really cool series. I feel like it's not going to happen, but
it's so sad because this book on Goodreads only has like 2,000 reviews, and I'm just like, that's sad, because I feel like I really liked this, like way more than I thought I was going to. So
yeah. It's funny, when I finished it, I was kind of like, oh, I was really bored during a lot of it. But yeah, the more I think about it, I'm like, you know, it really did a lot.
Exactly what happened to me. Because I was like, I finished it, I think, like 10 days ago. And I was like, I'm really conflicted about this, because sometimes I was really bored, but the ending was so good and the characters were so good. And at that point in time, it was 3.5.
Right.
Now 10 days later, like I can see all the good in it.
Right.
You know? So I had to give it up.
Right.
I'm really glad it's a series because I realized I feel like there's not a lot of horror series. Like horror is usually standalones.
Yeah.
So I feel like and this concept was interesting enough and like the world that I'm excited for the next book.
Yeah, like where is she gonna go next? Like where is Devin? You know, how is she gonna find him without the Facebook page? Because that's completely down.
I feel like it could go a few different ways. It could go her like trying to find Devin and kill him. It could go like her interacting more with Jade. Like, I don't know. I'm curious.
I'm excited. I will be reading it.
Yeah, and I feel like there's going to be more like the cult attacking people.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited for because I feel like we don't get enough cult books that are actually cult books.
Yeah.
Like, it's always in the description. It's like, it's a cult. And then it ends up being like kind of not really that big of a part of the story. I don't know. I felt like that was a big trend, like seeing on the back of books, like, oh, it's a cult book. And then it's like, oh, but is it really?
I feel like this one definitely, like Devin was making like an army of it. Yeah.
This wasn't even marketed as a cult book. So
it wasn't, but I feel like it was with the whole Facebook thing.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, guys. I got to read the comments. I thought Jade seemed kind of flaky and suspected she might still have a girlfriend, especially considering how Jade's friends were treating Mia. See, it's funny. I didn't think that. I don't know if I was just blinded, but I thought her friends were just like assholes.
I think they were being mean to Mia because she's like the other woman.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense now. And when I was reading it, I was like, why are they being so mean?
Because Mia's the other woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
there was also this one line that Jade said that was like she was talking about how her girlfriend, like she was posing it as her ex-girlfriend, but like she was talking about how like she saved her from like her home situation, and then she was like, I could be that for you.
Yes.
And I was like, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah. I picked up on that one too.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't catch those things. I wasn't like obsessed with Jade, but I liked her. And I liked how much she was like being kind to Mia and trying to get her walls down. But by the end, you're like, oh, wait, was it all good? You know?
Yeah.
I read that. I was unsure about Jade, Deb says, especially where she didn't feel like she could open up to Jade. Yeah. See, in my brain, I was just like, oh, she's not used to opening up with people. But yeah, now I'm seeing more, like in hindsight, I guess. Stephanie says, I was thinking it would be a good TV series. Yeah. I feel like maybe not even Netflix. I feel like Hulu would do a better job. I've been like really like not liking Netflix recently overall. They're slacking, especially since I can't access it now because I share an account. And
that sucks.
Yeah, it's like you're not on the shared internet. I'm like, yeah.
They have like billions of dollars. They can chill out.
Yeah. Most of their stuff sucks now. So,
yeah.
Hello. Let me look at my comments or questions and see. Oh, okay. I can't remember if I asked this, but would you guys have changed anything about the plot or the story?
I think just that getting her mom's point of view is what I would change.
That's the main thing.
I would have changed the audiobook narrator.
Yeah. And you know what I just thought about? Usually books for me start out where I like them way more and then I'm unhappy with the end. Whereas this was like different. Like I was really happy with the end. So it's just kind of interesting. This doesn't happen to me very much. I think that's why I was so confused. Usually I'm like, ooh, the setup, it's so good. And then it like stuff happens. I'm like, oh, I've seen this a billion times. Or like, oh, not as dark as I wanted it to go. Because I usually like, I'm specifically thinking more like with thrillers. I like them to kind of go more like horror elements into them. Oftentimes they're not. And so, yeah, it was interesting to experience a book where it's like, oh my gosh, I really like the end. And like the stuff that was happening towards the end. Just a really interesting reading experience. What books or movies come to mind when you're thinking about this book? Like if somebody liked this book, what has similar vibes? Something that came to mind was, what's it called? The new Kayla Cottingham book. What's it called?
Is it Dangerous Death? No.
This Delicious Death.
God, death, right?
It's a YA sapphic book, and it kind of takes place in like a desert setting, and I felt like it had sort of similar vibes, and there's sort of like a pandemic feel to that one as well. So that gave me those vibes. I couldn't really think of many other books that felt like this one though.
This really reminded me of a book that I love called Women Eating by Claire Coda, which is also a vampire book about a mother and daughter. They're both vampires, and it's also like a toxic, abusive relationship. But that book starts, I feel like, where this book ends. She, like, the main character has just gotten away from her mom and is trying to figure out how to exist on her own.
What is it called?
More like Women Eating.
Oh, okay.
Much more of like a character book, sort of similar to this one, but when I was reading this, it really reminded me of that.
This is a book that I saw. Sorry, I'm trying to get the image to load up here so people can see.
Yeah. The covers. I love the covers.
I know. I'm like an art print right now in my house now. I saw that book. Wasn't it last year when it was released?
Yeah.
Kind of recent. Nice. Yeah, I should check that out because in that book, was there more like vampire-y scenes? Did it feel more like vampire, or was it still similar where it was more just like relationship?
Yeah, it was more relationship. Like, it was another book like where she's a vampire, but it's not really about her being a vampire.
Interesting. So that's the one that reminds you. That's a good comparison. What about you, Michelle? Can you think of anything?
The only thing that I could think of, and this was just purely based on sapphic vampire vibes, was the Hulu series First Kill, and that was based off of V.E. Schwab. It got canceled, unfortunately, but it's vampires sapphic, if you're looking for that kind of vibe.
I should check that out. You said it's on Netflix, though?
It's on... I think it is on Netflix.
No, okay. I can still get Netflix on my laptop because for some reason they don't like track it the same. I don't know actually why I can still get it on there. So I should check it out. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I couldn't really think of like TV shows very much for this. But yeah, there's 2 books and a TV show. Stephanie said, I was thinking it would be a good TV series, and also for toxic parent relationship, I would say Sharp Objects, that's a really, really good book. Also, there's a HBO series that, first of all, the cinematography in it is amazing. They use all natural lighting. So at night, it's dark. You can barely see. And it just makes it feel so... more realistic, and I just thought that was so neat to watch. So I think the TV series and also the book are really good. That's a very good recommendation. Let's see. Those are kind of all the things I wanted to touch on. Sounds like we're all interested in the sequel. Also, I love the cover. Like, I kind of want to buy this book now, and I feel like it's kind of unique too. I haven't seen many books with a cover like this. I don't know. It's really.
I didn't know that there was a sequel until after I finished it, so I was very excited to see that. Yeah.
Are you all interested in checking out this author's YA book?
I don't really read a lot of YA, so
probably
not, honestly.
I was gonna say the same. If I was back like 2 years ago, then yeah, but no.
I know. I'm going to try to pull it up on Goodreads so I can show people who are watching right now. I have a very complicated relationship with YA books. I feel like they can be some of my favorite books of all time, and then also they can be annoying as fuck. So I don't know.
It does have a good rating, but there's 237 ratings for it. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it looks like this, which kind of like the cover. It's interesting. It says, every tree in the sacred forest of Leda houses a soul, though each of those souls will return to the mortal world for many future lives. Not all of them deserve to. It doesn't sound like a vampire story yet, but I thought I saw it was a vampire story. Yeah, it doesn't have like that many ratings.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to see. People are saying great concept. So I may check it out. I don't know if it's like shorter, and maybe I'll let you all know how it feels compared to this one. Let me check in. Stephanie says, I also didn't know there was a sequel until after I finished it. I immediately want to. Goodreads to check because of the cliffhanger. Yeah, it was a cliffhanger. I wasn't expecting that. Like Riley said, there's not many horror series or even like thriller series, but I feel like even less horror series, not very common.
Yeah, I wonder if she like pitched it like that, or if she just like wrote it and that just kind of happened. Like, I wonder what her like mindset was going into this book. Like, I would love to know.
Yeah, because if it was supposed to be a standalone, that's a wild ending.
Yeah, like I would have been mad. I kind of was mad, so that's why I looked to see.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I feel like the book like just came out last month and the sequel was already announced. So I feel like it had to, like, they had to have been written around the same time.
Maybe they were just like, let's break this in half.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I know. I wish it was out right now so I could just read it. Because for me, it's sometimes, this is why I'm not that big of a series reader. Also, just given the fact that I mostly read thriller and horror books, it's less common. But I forget things. And then sometimes it's hard to get spoilers, especially books are less common. So it's like, or less popular. Let me see. Deb says, I enjoy a yard thriller or horror. Depends on the direction it goes. Too much romance will spoil. Yeah, for me. Yeah. I think it works, this one, as a series or a duology. I don't know what it's supposed to be. So any last comments, or I don't know, any last thoughts on this one?
This was a good choice. Thanks, Riley.
Yeah. It's such a fun discussion. Did you all like the flashback chapters more, or did you have a preference, or was it just both?
I think I preferred the flashback ones, but I was enjoying each perspective like as I was reading it. So
that's good. Yeah. I enjoyed them more because they were a little bit more action-packed, but then towards the end it got more action-packed in the present.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt. Like, once stuff started happening in like present day, then I was all about present day. So it depended.
Also, this is funny. Deb corrected YA, not yard. I was like, I'm reading this and it doesn't make sense, but I'm going to read it anyway. Okay, it was like a yard thriller. I was like, is this? I mean, I could see something being called a yard thriller, like someone's got it, at a garage sale. It's like a fast yard thriller, but that makes more sense. YA. Yeah, YA is, I feel like at some point, I should do a whole live show on like YA thriller or YA books and like adult opinions on them, like who likes them, why they like them, what elements they like. Cause I feel like a lot of people have like a lot of thoughts on YA thrillers and why they like them, why they've stopped reading them. I don't know. I feel like it could be interesting. So anyway, make sure to subscribe to Michelle and Riley if you're not already. And thank you all for being here. I am going to start putting together the next couple months of the book club. I don't have the picks out yet, but voting will be up for them on Patreon, as soon as I can kind of get things together. Fall is a really busy time because I teach and but I'm going to get it figured out. So thank you all for being here. Sorry about the comments. I really hope StreamYard fixes that, or YouTube, or the combination of it, because it makes it a little bit trickier. But thanks for being here, guys. And I'm gonna end the broadcast here. Bye.